This is the U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
So the story, if you guys are just tuning in, the story they're talking about is the young black man at Delta State University who was found outside, hung. And the police were saying for him, his name is Trey Reed, and the police were saying for him that it was a no foul play immediately. And this is like hours after we got the news. That was what the press and the police were saying, was that there was no, or the police was telling to the press, there was no foul play. And that's just something that we just thought was a little eerie with, as you were talking about, the assassination of Charlie Kirk that we all saw, and how the coverage has been going back around the clock everywhere. And this particular story didn't even make mainstream headlines, so it was up to us to push it on the internet, and that's why many people heard about it. The reason why I think that it was a big story in itself, not only that it happened at a university, but because it was a hanging after, and again, they're calling it a suicide, but the reason why a lot of people, before we even got the information, but people flagged it as a red flag, was because a few days prior of this news coming out, or even like 24, 48 hours, of course, we knew what happened to Charlie Kirk. And then the next day they were going after Black universities, and Black people were targets. That's what a lot of the white nationalist groups came out immediately, day of, white man fight back type stuff. And so when we're seeing that happen out of Mississippi, who has a history of lynchings, one of the highest histories of lynchings in America. So you think about those things and you're like, now, right after that, Black schools are being called. Delta, let's be clear, Delta State is not a HBCU. However, this Black student is found hung. And then the initial news that came out that the police gave was false. The family found out with us that he was hung. The family was told by police initially, and this was reported today, that he was found dead in his dorm room. And so now the family has taken action, in which we were like, okay, yeah, this cannot be something that you just push to the side. The first red flag was...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to be clear. So what you're saying that he found dead in his dorm room, and then his body was taken and hung.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the police officers told his family initially.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
First told his family initially that his body was found in the dorm room. They had the story first, and that's what they told them. But when they went into the press, and spoke with the press, that's when the family found out with the rest of the world that there was a body that was found outside, and it was hung outside of the Delta State University. And so, where the pickleball, I guess, field was at the university. And so with that being said, that's another red flag. But the first red flag was the immediate response by police officers to just wave it off as no foul play. No foul play. And I think more so we were on alert as Black people. We were on alert as community. We were on alert as Americans, because the day before, or a few days prior, what happened? And the people outside that were saying, they're gonna fight back. What does that look like? What does that mean? So we hear this lynching, right? But it's a hanging, and they're saying that it was by suicide. There was so many different stories going around, and I am a big believer of getting more information. And I think when the police officers came out and immediately, without having the full investigation, like literally just hours, and they were like, well, no foul play, that's that. And there are reportedly 4 cases like that this year alone, where they're considered no foul play with Black men and just suicides, where people were found in that same type of position, hanging. And
I remember one, I want to say it was around the time after George Floyd. I remember a similar thing happening on a campus, or maybe it wasn't a campus, but it was something. It was still the same thing a few years ago. Ruled the same thing.
And I'm trying to remember too. But I don't know the exact dates, locations. What I do know most recently was the one that happened in June. There was somebody found, and I believe it was Albany, New York, and died by, they're saying that died by suicide. And we're getting with these type of cases where the person is found hung or hanging out on a tree, or in that way, it is said to be no foul play. That's what they're coming out with, no foul play and suicide. And so in this particular thing, we're like, I don't know. Again, I'm not there, but the the investigation itself, and it wasn't even done yet, and the press was basically like given information, so this won't have anything. I feel like they did that so that it won't get legs. It wouldn't have the highlight. It wouldn't be a main story. But no. And then that same day, there was a white man, Cory, who was found as well. Cory was found hanging in another area of Mississippi, another town in Mississippi. And he's a white man. When that story first came out, of course, misinformation came out and said that he was a black man, and he's not. He's a white man. But here, the interesting part is his headline was "Homeless Man Found, hung." And to me, this is just highlighting, and this came a few days after Brian, I believe, on Fox.
Brian Kilmeade
had repeated, by lethal injection, homeless people should die. Like they should. They're a problem.
It's also interesting because I'm pretty sure in that statement he included mentally ill, and I'm not sure if you've been seeing this. But the conservatives and the MAGA crowd have been
we even saw Asmongold.
The question
he said that mentally ill people should be put in prison and enslaved, basically.
I mean,
that wasn't his exact words, of course, but it basically was his exact words. You know what I mean?
Like, but we've seen like the not necessarily like MAGA influencers, but like the MAGA supporters just asking the question of whether trans people should be labeled as mentally ill, period. Right? And all of this stuff is, and we've been speaking about this a lot, is just feeding the stochastic terror that Charlie Kirk aided.
It's the rhetoric to me that, like, simply what happened with Charlie Kirk, and then immediately after that, the white nationalists came out and were like, we're on behalf of him, we're going to just attack black people. When we're finding out, even though they're saying that it wasn't black folks that did it, clearly that wasn't the issue. But why are they going after black folks? You see, it's because the rhetoric, it's because the teaching, it's because the indoctrination within these people. And so this is what they go for. They need to go for the marginalized. And here, homeless people are marginalized. Mental health, people with mental issues, trans people are marginalized. Those people are the ones that are in the lesson plans for people on the right, for the extreme thinking. It's to attack them. And what we're seeing now, 2 of these people have been hung. I think the investigation should definitely be 2 different people on the same day. And I just am looking at it more so, and I'm going to do a bit on this, a video essay on this, but I am looking at it more so from context. Coincidence, okay, but I'm giving it context, because, these are the things that I think grow from these people's statements. I think they're forms of whistleblowing. I think they're forms of what they already believe in their mind. And right now, with how America is in this particular minute, in this moment, these people would run off a cliff to uphold right-wing ideals. And so for me, seeing all of this happen, and seeing a family be lied to, and seeing a man just be called a homeless person, nobody even identify him correctly. With lynching, we know that is, especially in the state of Mississippi, it's a race thing. But marginalized people are, when it comes to what the right is teaching today, anybody can get it, basically. Trans people are being blamed for what went on, or what happened to Charlie Kirk. That has nothing to do with anything, but that is the rhetoric that we're seeing online. And if these people believe that homeless people, just for being homeless, should not be alive. People with mental health issues should not be alive. We see how the New York mayor talks about them, people who are homeless. We see, how he refers to them and what should happen to them. We see how they refer to immigrants here in this country. We see how they're treating people who have anything to say about what happened to Charlie Kirk, which is unfortunate. But if we can call a thing, what happened was by his own teachings. Like, if there was gun control, I believe we would still have Charlie Kirk, right? So those are the things that I we're seeing. But in this particular case, in this particular story, Trey Reed needs to be a main focus right now. Ben Crump, the family just detained Ben Crump to further, cover this and investigate and represent
Can you
them.
explain who that is? I'm not sure who that is.
So Ben Crump is actually Trayvon Martin was one of the first main cases that the lawyer had covered and made that a big case. And since then, he's taken on other high profile race-related cases or murders, police murders against Black people, those things. And he's been at the face of a lot of the recent ones in the last, I would say, over a decade. So Ben Crump is a big name. So Ben Crump today had just released that he'd be representing the family. So it's interesting to see what will come of it. But it was also interesting to see how quick they moved to put out their autopsy information that included that there was no broken bones, any intrusion on the body, or anything like that showed there was a struggle.
That's one of the specific things I wanted to wait and get more information on.
Yeah, so when we covered it, we because I think Wendy in the chat here is the one that sent me the link initially. It was maybe 2 or 3 hours after the initial report, so there was very limited information. So when we actually looked at it, we looked at the news article, tried to find videos on it. There were maybe 2, and they were short news stories, gave us nothing. Police ruled it a suicide. My initial thing, because as John said, I wasn't playing the game at the time. I was watching the news and stuff.
But nobody should have been playing the game as soon as we transitioned.
But we did kind of transition quickly and unexpectedly. That was my fault. So we should have prepared to cover the story. I just was like, oh, that's a serious thing. Let's look at this now. So it was kind of
and that's okay.
Jumping the gun.
It happened. I'm glad, like I said, there's self-awareness here, and that's okay. The information also that was being given, it was so much. Even I had to let people know, hey, we got 2 stories here. We have to be careful of, and we have to be very, very specialized in how we're going to make sure we give the information, because there's so much misinformation coming around, especially with the case of the 36-year-old Cory, who was found, or that story came out the next day, but found the same day. And many people were putting out the wrong information. Many people also were adding to Trayvon's information as well. So Trey and Cory are the names that they had. Then they kept posting them around and saying that, it was 2 Black men. And even if it was 2 Black men, that's problematic. But here we have 2 people hung. Being Black is very, very symbolic in Mississippi. We know that those things are race related, especially what happens. The biggest story there is Emmett Till that comes out of Mississippi. With what they did with Emmett Till. And then, so that was where everybody's mind went. And I think that's why it was really, really hot. But still, somebody was found hanging from a tree. And we know where the country is functioning and how they're functioning. Cory was homeless, white, Black, in between, purple. Anybody who is considered a throwaway or a marginalized person, what they don't care. You can die, you can go about your business. We don't care. So in this thing, I really wanted Cory to also be identified correctly and respected correctly, the information, because already homeless. I don't think anybody came out at the time with any information that family-wise for Cory in the time. And the only information that we were able to verify was somebody on TikTok who already had covered a story on Cory previously. And so that's the way that was verified. So either way.
I saw that there potentially no family for him as well, which is a bigger issue, because who's going to fight for him in this case? The cops can easily cover that up and get away with it. I did want to ask, so when we were looking, we did find one guy who was talking about it, who said that bones were broken. Has the coroner report come out? were there broken bones? What's going on with this? Because
You're talking about for Trey Reed?
For Trey, yeah.
Okay. So that was the initial findings. It was that bone. Well, the initial, and I want to say findings because again, the officers were moving quicker than I ever seen in my life. Again, they went immediately for the press conference to say, no foul play. And then information online where I think there was an alleged family member who, of course, made a video who said, hey, the body that we saw, bruises and bones broken and things of that sort. And we want information. So please don't. Of course, there were videos, I believe, of the body hanging because this was on a university campus. So, people had it on their video phones. I didn't see it. But the family was saying, please stop sharing video of the body. But police came out yesterday and said that there was, or it was earlier this morning, or it was late yesterday, that they already did their findings in the autopsy. I believe it was earlier today. It's been a long day. That there was no foul play. The body was intact and it was just suicide. It was a hanging. And that was the police that came out with their immediate autopsy report. And that's when the family said, we're going to go independent. So that was today. I read that today. We're going to go independent, and a lot of I think the NAACP, Ben Crump, a lot of other organizations said, if anything comes out, we will be rallying behind you. If anything comes out from this separate autopsy, and then we found Ben Crump just a few hours ago said that he will be representing the family, which means there's something here. And I believe it was after, because today it was reported that the lie came out. So now we have something to go with even there. You lied to the family about where that body was, did a press covering and told everyone else that the body was found hanging from a tree outside, the university, within the university by the pickleball courts or whatever. And that's how the family found out was with us. So now we have a case of something different here. But so, yeah, there's going to be a separate autopsy, conducted. And that is for the family, because the family feels like if you can lie to me about this, then there's something else going on, if you guys are so quick to do all this. So I think as the days are going to come, we'll see more about that. But there is no official reports that, except for what the police gave, that say that the body didn't have any of the things that people were saying, broken bones and things like that. So,
So I wanted to just, this is kind of getting into speculation, but it's really beneficial for the university not to have a lynching on their campus. It's beneficial for the state not to have a lynching on college campuses. Do you think,
especially with them celebrating their centennial this week?
Yes. Yeah. Do you think that there was any possibility that the university even communicated to the cops to be like, hey, can we get this swept under the rug?
Okay, so yeah, historically, the only reason why I believe that, because historically that has been a thing where if they are trying to save face, and especially we're talking about Mississippi, if they're trying to save face, or there's a relationship between the higher ups with police officers and this is their week of their centennial. Why would we want a story about a hanging right when the world is politically stressed because of race issues and because somebody just died and those type of things? Why would we want that to happen right now? The statement that kept being said by the dean of the school was that, I can assure you that this still is one of the safest universities in the nation, to attend. That was their important part in mentioning the centennial. Those were the two important parts. Not that there was a body found hanging on the campus, and that is a serious issue. And not that a family is mourning because they were given misinformation on purpose. So I believe that there is a element of saving face, saving the school's reputation, especially with the climate politically right now. Mississippi doesn't want to be the lead story about these type of things. And too late, here we are. And I think that immediately, once today they reported that the family was lied to about where the body was, that's where they played themselves. And so now we're going to see a lot more come out, and I'm guarantee you a lot of bones will start falling out about what's been happening at that university as well.
The Trey's body was found in the morning, correct?
There was reported that it was found in the early hours of the morning. Somebody had discovered it. It is university students and things of that sort. So I believe that's where video was taken and pictures were taken at that time.
What time was Cory's body found?
I think that was at 1 p.m. That was in the afternoon. I believe that was in the afternoon, but same day. But that story didn't really break until the next morning. But somebody did post about it late in the evening hours the day before, and that's where people were mistaking Cory for somebody else who had passed away in Mississippi, but in a different manner. But they were, you know, found a face and they just put that to it, and that was misinformation. That information was going around for hours, and I made sure not to post that because we never got any clarification on there. And that's when I was saying, like, we can't be putting that out there until we have more information. What we do know is that somebody else was found hung. There is a report about it, and that was in the afternoon. So I think they kind of were trying to suppress that story too, because it's another hanging, but in another city. It was unrelated, but in another city in Mississippi. So here we are, and now I guess they were thinking, okay, if they say if it's white, this white person definitely deserves for them to be identified correctly and for them to have the same respect as well, because that is no way for somebody to go. And if it was suicide, for the investigation not to just be no foul play and then the homeless man, you know, and that's where we're like, more respect needs to be given. And it's more than the reputation to me of a university or a state.
So the reason I asked about the time that the bodies were found is because I asked a question yesterday or the last stream, which nobody was able to give me an answer for. How related is the history of lynchings and how often did they happen at night?
So, I mean...
you asked me this and I said, I don't know about night specifically.
Yeah, so now with the history, again, in Mississippi, they've had between, I guess, and let's put this in perspective. 200 times they rejected making lynching illegal or a hate crime. It wasn't up until 2021, I believe, or 2022, under Joe Biden, that a law was passed under Emmett Till's name to make lynching a hate crime. That's it. It's been knocked down. It's been brought and knocked down 200 times. 200 times. So somebody still wanted to consider lynching as a thing. Let's put that into perspective. Many lynchings, especially in Mississippi, used to be a spectacle. People would get lynched. They would bring their children out. It's a cultural thing. You know, like they would take the lynchings, take pictures, and put them on postcards. So there was a point in time where this was so normal. In a state like Mississippi, this is their history. So lynchings weren't a kind of hidden thing. Over time, they would do it in the night to scare people, to go and find people and not be identified. These white nationalist groups, these racist groups, of course, would use the nighttime to not be identified, burn down places, all of those type of things. That's what they would do. There was a time where it was daytime, morning time, before breakfast, in the afternoon. It was a spectacle. This was like a party, and they would bring their children. So that is basically the history of lynching, if this is one, because allegedly it could be a suicide, it could be a lynching. We need more information, and that's an actual proper investigation happens, not something that is a fly-by-night information police officers already gave, lied to the family, and then went on to just kind of cover for the university, saying that the university, you know, they're celebrating the centennial. They are a great school. They're one of the safest. To keep on pushing that type of rhetoric when we're talking about a 21-year-old young boy from Grenada, Mississippi, was just found that morning. And then immediately there's no foul play. But the foul play happened when you guys lied to the family. And then immediately came out with your own autopsy report. And family said, no. Give us the body. We will do what we need to do with that. So, you know, again, it all ties together. These days, you're not going to see anybody try to do anything like that in the daytime. When these people go out to do their dirt, or to threaten folks, it's usually in the night these days. These hate groups, it's usually in the night.
You've seen, like, I think Blood Tribe, they're only organizing at 2 a.m. because that's when nobody will come out and
They do
identify
that
them.
in Australia as well. National Socialist Network do their little marches through the city in Melbourne at the middle of the night. There was a machete attack in a shopping centre in the north of Victoria, and they literally rock up at 3 a.m. with a sign that says ban N-words, not machetes. Like, you're doing this because you're cowards sitting in the shopping centre at 3 a.m. so the news covers you, gives you publicity, and the cops are there to make it look like you're a big threat. It's literally pageantry. Like, it's so frustrating.
This is how they move. This is how extremist groups move. Whatever side it is, but it has to be in a way where they can invoke fear into people. And in a state like that, in a place where people still look at you and may call you boy, you know, this is not something that we're taking lightly. I know people are saying, oh, this was so long ago. There was a fashion show a few days ago where Ruby Bridges, who was one of the first girls, who was first young woman to integrate schools racially in the South. And she walked in a fashion show. The black man who took a popular picture where he drank out of whites only water fountain, walked in that same fashion show. Who else walked in there? It was a few people that were instances in America that were racist, that are younger than our grandparents. Walked in a fashion show recently, and people are saying, well, that's just so long ago. This is so long ago. No, a lot of these states that didn't want to get rid of lynching, which is weird to me, that didn't want to get rid of these racist laws that have still allowed them to somewhere in a loophole be able to attack black folk, right? That they want to say, oh, this is just, no, we have to look at the history of these states. We have to look at the history of these places. There are places in Georgia, we know about Atlanta, right? The state of Georgia, we know Atlanta. Outside of Atlanta, Georgia is predominantly white and very, very, very conservative. And if you drive the wrong way in the night, I live somewhere, if I drive the wrong way 20 minutes at night, I'm in the wrong place. They will look at you crazy and all those type of things. So being naive to the history of places, you can drive, I think there's a few hours, maybe 2 hours out from where I live. There's a place, a restaurant that has all like anti-Obama thing. It's 2025. Obama hasn't been president in how long? And they have these like anti-Obama posters on the wall where his face and like bullet holes, things like that. It's a restaurant. And imagine if you are caught in that area in the night as a black person. This is the things that people need to think of. So now I think is the time, especially because what are the threats online? Why were black schools immediately after the day after attacked? Why were HBCUs attacked? All day long, from the nighttime, from midnight all the way into the next day, they had to be shut down. Some FBI agents had to go and, watch the schools, and then police officers and FBI had to work together in some schools. Some schools were just being told, it's just, they're just playing jokes right now. They're not going to do anything. But in this climate, we can't write it off as just no foul play, or this is just a joke, or this. No. People are literally outside looking for blood. No matter if it was these people or not, they're going to look for the marginalized communities. They're going to make sure they go for race first. So if you're black, you're first. They're going to go for immigrants. They're going to go for the unhoused. They're going to go for the people who have mental health issues. They're going to go for the LGBTQIA community, particularly the trans community. They're going to go for all of those people. And that's why we should be alarmed about all of the cases that are happening, but particularly right now, until we actually have facts, we just have to say it was an alleged suicide.
I wanted to say that too, just even if it was, even if the amount of proof that I would need to begin with, but even if it does come out that it's somehow 100% fact that it was a suicide, there's still so much wrong, lying to the family. Even if the police are correct and it was a suicide, they started out clearly covering stuff up, lying to the family. It doesn't make what they did go away.
No, it doesn't. And that is where police abuse their authority. And that is where we see there are ties where it's who you know. It's about Delta State remaining a good PWI, we call those predominantly white institutions, but a good university in Mississippi that has no issues in its centennial. We've been there for 100 years. We have a reputation to uphold. This is not our business. It may have been found here, but this is not our business. And we still want to go ahead with our activities, but they suspended the activities that day. I think thinking that they were going to continue through the week to celebrate. I'm not sure what they're doing tomorrow. I'm not sure what the school is doing the next day, but it's interesting to see as I continue to find out information or see or hear information. But even students at the schools who are starting to speak up online or make their posts, it's just interesting to follow the rhetoric. And I believe as the days come, we're going to hear and see much more. But, again, if this did happen by suicide, then it should be respected as such. And if it happened any other way, we're going to find out. And the family deserves to do what's right to find out, instead of it just being written off in less than a few hours after the press conference, after being lied to, saying that this was no foul play, and that is enough. So yeah, I hope that you guys in these particular moments just stick to it. Even for Cory, I don't want those stories to be written off, because nobody should be hanging from a tree, especially in a state like Mississippi. Like this state already didn't want to do away with it. They've been doing it forever. They have one of the highest numbers in the United States when it comes to this type of stuff. So that's why we're looking at them sideways. And until investigation shows differently, I think it's fair for people to have, those views. But I also think even if it was something else, they should still be respected as somebody who was found outside of Delta State University, and as somebody who was unhoused, who was found, we don't want to just call them, a homeless found without any kind of respect. They do deserve their respect. So, yeah, I hope I answered questions for you guys and relieved any of the stress.
Well, my big issue is also the lack of coverage and
yes,
nobody talking about it. So that's what I messaged. I messaged Black Red Guard with a similar thing. I'm like, how do I responsibly even go about reporting about this? We need as many eyes on this as possible. And that's all he had to say for me to get the cobwebs out and just nobody is talking about this. As long as I'm doing the best I can, then it's better than everyone else who hasn't said anything.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you coming here as well.
No problem. And before I get out of here, I'll say follow pages that you may not follow that will cover this, because they're going to be the ones that are on this. That's what I have to do as well when I'm following stuff that's trending or I didn't know about. I would follow, some of those people to make sure that I'm getting the updates and do your due diligence by just not taking just a tweet or a thread post at face value. Find out if there's any matching information or who the source is coming from. And that'll make you a great person to at least give the credit to where you're getting it from. That is going to be the key thing here, because you can be reporting something, but you can say where you got it from so that you're knowing okay, this is coming from such and such, this is what they reported. And even if it's wrong or right, this is what they're reporting, so that you're not saying that it's facts. You're not saying that it's false. You're just saying this is where it's coming from. This is a verified source, and this is where it's coming from. Because even we can see within we saw verified sources for in the unfortunate murder of Charlie Kirk from verified sources. Main news channels got it wrong. Main news reporters got it wrong. Main pages got it wrong. So, just keep your ears to the political streets. And sometimes those streets may not be the normal streets that you're usually on online, but those will best help you know what's going on in this story, because I found that a lot of times I have to be the one in different spaces, and vice versa, to educate my white peers about what's going on in the Black community politically, and they have to do the same thing for me. Even though I'm a well-rounded journalist, and my focus right now, because I'm independent now, I can focus just on Black issues. But if I'm not aware of something, they fill me in. And I'm finding that they just never know the sources, and I've been, been able to be that for them as well. So just follow, some other pages. I know Kevin. Here's Why Kevin. He's a great page. Phil. He covers every breaking news on this. Phil is covering it. So he as well. And there's a whole bunch of other. Olay is doing a great job on a tidbit that she's done. Just this past Sunday, she did a panel, not with this Trey situation, but with the Charlie Kirk situation, which kind of leads into why we're very on edge when we hear stories like this coming out right after that. So just definitely it's not hard, but I get your stress about it. And as long as you know that you're informing yourself correctly, educating yourself correctly on what's going on, and you are not contributing to misinformation, that's all you need to know. If you don't know something, don't say nothing. Just say you don't know. And that is the best way to go about it. It's the best way to go about it.
This is why when I posted about it, I literally said 2 men were what seems to be lynched in Mississippi, a 21-year-old, 36-year-old, both hanging from trees. Anyone hear about this, or everyone too concerned about canceling people for jokes?
Yeah.
It's just nobody's talking about this. And when we brought it up, I was just like, man. And it was, as I said, within hours, and nothing happened. No development during the stream, nothing. It was crazy.
They have to suppress it. I'm telling you, you'll see a lot of stories like this suppressed. If this goes about, it's going to tie itself to the political issues that are happening right now. Who wants to be tied to that? What predominantly white area or a state with the history that it has, or a person that is who they are, that's connected to, or what? Nobody wants to be tied to that right now. No one. If we focus just on the, again, I keep saying the unfortunate because it is unfortunate that Charlie Kirk did go the way that he did.
Yeah, I think it's going to cause more problems than he was already causing.
Yeah. So if we focus more on that, which the media has been, and they focused on it more than they did the Minnesota state representative and her husband and her dog who were murdered, we are doing ourselves a disservice because the coverage will still be going. If it comes to conservatives, they will still cover that. But it's our duty to also make sure that we're covering these stories, to make sure that they, if necessary, get their just due. And that's the justice. And that's what we're doing. So, but I'm glad that I came on the show. I'm glad I was able to talk to you guys through it, walk you guys through it, and inform you guys with the latest. If anything, just shoot me a DM if you need more information.
Yeah, I'll message you after this. Thank you so much.
All right. It was so nice to meet you, Jack and John. It was nice to meet you guys. Hopefully we can do it again. Maybe I can bring some of my peers on here one of the next days. Okay. That's my time. Love you guys. Mean it. So great to meet you. And shouts out to the chat. You guys can follow me on YouTube where I am the most. That's Rebecca Azor. My first name, last name, Azor. And I'm on Instagram in Becca's Voice. I don't post much on there, but I am on Threads. That's where you see much more about what goes on in my mind. I am not on Twitter. I don't post on Twitter. Yeah, or X, whatever they call it these days. But I am on Threads. Same thing, in Becca's Voice, INBECCASVOICE. I will see you guys again. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and your stream, and stay informed. Bye, y'all.
See ya.
Bye.
Through the years, America has stood as the world symbol for law and order. Anarchy, well, that was something that was always happening in other countries. Newsworthy, perhaps, but it could never happen here. The policeman on the corner has traditionally been looked upon as a friend, not as the instrument of a tyrant. People in other countries had just reasons to riot against their governments. The nations of the world are dictatorships in one form or another.